Friday on Grid Live pre-race. IndyCar visits St. Petersburg, Josef Newgarden or Scott Dixon, one of those two will be the next world champion. MotoGP visits Aragon circuit again. We'll explain the surprise and pole winner for the race. Plus, NASCAR at Texas and Formula One at Portugal, all right here on Grid Live pre-race.
Hi, hello everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. My name is Jessica with Paddock Inside. Kobe from the podium finish. Enjoy. We have NASCAR, MotoGP, Formula One racing this weekend. We'll start with IndyCar and their championship deciding round.
Definitely an exciting weekend for the NTT IndyCar series. They're coming down to their last race of the 2020 season at St. Petersburg. Of course, this is really unique. Traditionally, the race will be a little earlier in the season as the first race of the year. Of course, the pandemic hit and was just postponed hours before the cars hit the track way back in March. Now, the championship is down to two. We have the grid ranking leader, Scott McLaughlin, doing his first race, and plenty to cover about this race. Kobe, how exciting is it to see Scott McLaughlin, the three-time Australian Supercar champion and grid ranking leader, compete in his first IndyCar race?
Oh, Joe, it's really exciting. This has been a long time coming. It's been rumored for months and months now that Scott McLaughlin would be moving over to IndyCar full time. And last night, Team Penske announced that they're going to be pulling out of the Australian Supercar series, and they're going to be bringing Scott McLaughlin with them to North America to race in IndyCar. And Scott McLaughlin, he's one of those drivers who just has the it factor. And I think when he comes over to IndyCar, he's going to be what I like to call one of those super rookies. He's going to be like a Robert Wickens in terms of performance. I certainly think he's going to have his growing pains, and have those rookie moments that any rookie has when they come over to the IndyCar series. But I do think that Scott McLaughlin is definitely going to be very competitive right in the early stages of his IndyCar career.
I do agree with you, and definitely we want to invite all our viewers in the chat room. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on Scott McLaughlin. How would his rookie season do, and how will he do tomorrow in the IndyCar race? Of course, he's going to be very excited to see what he brings to IndyCar. Of course, running for Team Penske, great equipment. A lot of people are anticipating good things, and I think he's going to be a big name in the IndyCar series. But you do bring up the good points as well about the growing pains that every rookie goes through. Of course, the biggest story of the weekend is the championships battle between Scott Dixon and Josef Newgarden. Dixon has led the point season all year long, just week after week, every race. He has been leading the points. Ever since the Indianapolis 500, though, Josef Newgarden has been slowly catching up to Scott Dixon. And now we're at a point to where just those two are eligible for the championship. Still, the magic number for Scott Dixon is a ninth place finish or better. He is the champion no matter what Josef Newgarden does. But here's my question for you. With all the struggles lately that Scott Dixon has had, can we count on Scott Dixon finishing ninth or better?
Yeah, I certainly think that it's doable for Scott Dixon to finish ninth or better at St. Pete. I don't know if he's going to be contending for the win, but winning last weekend with Wayne Taylor racing at Petit Le Mans, I think that's certainly going to give him a lot of confidence heading into this weekend.
It's definitely a case where I feel he has the confidence, the momentum heading into the final weekend. It's just been really interesting because earlier this year, Scott Dixon, the way he was looking, it seemed like a sure favorite. He will win the championship. The last few race weekends, though, it just been struggle after struggle that I was on the border thinking, I don't know. He could finish in the top 10, but finishing ninth, if this was Scott Dixon from the first four races, I would say easily he will finish ninth. It was the last Scott Dixon we've seen the last four races. Man, put together a good race. Don't make any mistakes. Now, depending on the bonus points, Dixon could finish 13th or better and wrap it up. If he scores some bonus points, of course, bonus points are awarded for pole, lead a lap, and most laps led in the race. Josef Newgarden, second place or better, and Dixon finished 23rd or worse. Josef Newgarden will be your champion. And of course, if Newgarden scores bonus points, wins, Dixon has to finish 10th or better to secure the championship. Do you think Newgarden do his part? And do you think Scott Dixon will do his part so that will essentially prevent any chance for Josef Newgarden from winning this championship?
Oh, I definitely think Josef Newgarden will do whatever he can to try to put himself in the best position to get a championship win, because anything can happen. Especially, I'd be a little nervous with the finale being on a street course, in St. Petersburg, Florida, for the Firestone Grand Prix, because there's always a potential to have that first lap incident, especially since the walls are so tight. It's so tight on those street courses. Walls are so close together. So if Scott Dixon gets caught up in a race ending lap one incident, then it definitely plays into Josef Newgarden's advantage. And I just think that Scott Dixon and Josef Newgarden, they want to get through these first opening laps the best they can without having any contact, because your championship hopes could end on lap one, turn one.
Last thing anybody will want to see is the championship decide lap one, turn one. Of course, there's some memorable moments from other motorsports, particularly Formula One, with Senna and Suzuka. The championship was decided. You do bring up a good point. This track is really tricky. Taking a look at the track course map, it is a street course. One thing that makes it really unique, that main stretch, it is an airport runway. So it's very wide. You got a very wide entry into that first corner, but we've seen trouble there, especially I could think of Alexander Rossi and a couple of years ago, racing against Robert Wickens, entering that first corner. Both of them got together, and that gave the win to Sebastian Bourdais that day. So definitely a lot could happen in this tight track. It's really interesting to see that street course will be hosting the championship deciding round. Now, of course, IndyCar may consider up there with the top motorsport series in the United States, along with NASCAR. NASCAR has a playoff system. IndyCar does a season-long point system. So what you do all your season long, your wins, everything counts. There's no resets parts in the season in the championship. We have bonus points for pole position, laps led, and most laps led. How would you rank the IndyCar point system when you compare it to Formula One and Formula E, which uses the same FIA point system at 25 points a win, MotoGP, where the top 15 earn points, and NASCAR's point system?
I think the IndyCar point system is decent for what it is. You don't need stages or a playoff system, and the championship is coming down to the last race. Yes, Scott Dixon does have the advantage, but Josef Newgarden has the potential to strike if Scott Dixon has major issues, either mechanical or contact on track. And I really do think that the major complaint about the IndyCar point system is people don't want to see double points at the Indianapolis 500.
It does seem, especially when it comes to double points at the Indianapolis 500, fans are split on that. One of the things I do like about the point system that the IndyCar has is all season long. There's no reset points. I think NASCAR has done a very good job with the introduction of playoff points, so it's not just a complete reset in each round. One thing I do think, especially with this championship scenario, if we didn't have the bonus points for pole, for leading a lap, it'll be a little bit more easier, especially for the casual fans, to just say, Scott Dixon, 9th or better, he wins the championship. Josef Newgarden has to do this. We have a little bit of some factors where if with bonus points, Scott Dixon can finish 13th, particularly if he gets the pole, leads a lap. So definitely it's going to be one of those things where I really see this point system working well for IndyCar. I think it's really great. And the last thing I think they need to try to do is to change it up just for the sake of changing it up. Now, of course, we're going to have more IndyCar coverage later on in the program, but right now we're going to turn to Jessica for Formula One Portugal Grand Prix.
That's right, because the last time Formula One raced in Portugal was in 1996. This time, Formula One is a new track at the hasn't raced before. The Algarve International Circuit have 4.653 kilometers, equivalent of 2.83 miles. 50 corners, mollies ranging from the mild to slow corners, downforce will be a big factor. And for this weekend, Kobe, Ferrari has the most wins in Portugal Grand Prix with the slower corners and high downforces. Can we see Ferrari driver on the podium?
Oh, I'm not really sure we're going to see a Ferrari driver on the podium, but I think a great run for Ferrari in the Portugal Grand Prix would be really good for them and for the entire team in general. It's been a rough year. Charles Leclerc been doing the best that he can with what has been the worst Ferrari car in a while now. And Sebastian Vettel it's just to be perfectly blunt, it's just been the season from hell for him, and I'm sure he'd really like to have a solid finish in this final stretch as a Ferrari driver.
Perfect. This is the second race in a Track Original Planet for the 2020 season. Nürburgring last week and this week in Portugal. So a fair number of surprises included the Renault podium, has scoring points and reliability issues. Jay, do you anticipate another race similar like Nürburgring?
I do anticipate another race similar to the Nürburgring. Of course, Nürburgring, very unpredictable, and we saw a little bit of that today and yesterday as well, with Lance Stroll, Max Verstappen getting together, qualifying today. Of course, we saw the Ferrari get fourth in qualifying, but then we saw Daniel Ricciardo makes it to Q3, but never puts in the lap because at the end of Q2, spun in the gravel track. What's really unique with this track, we have gravel tracks. So we don't have the additional paved runoff areas. We got that unforgiving gravel trap. Someone goes out of the track, they could be in some big trouble ahead. So it's definitely going to be really interesting race. And I think it's going to have a lot of that unpredictability factor that we saw at Nürburgring.
Yes, that will be a race unpredictable because this is a new track at Portugal, but the drivers are so much happy with this new track in Formula One. The big news that came out this week was Haas will no longer have Grosjean and Magnussen. Grosjean announced on Twitter shortly later Magnussen announcing he won't return back. Colin, can you tell us this move was surprising and overdue?
Well, I think it was a little bit of both. I think a lot of people will agree that this was long overdue. Yeah, no offense to Romain Grosjean or Kevin Magnussen, but it really did seem like Haas needed to have a reset. And I know in the last several months on our programs, we've been talking about Haas quite a bit and how it would probably be a great move for them to move on from Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen. And actually, it was a little surprising to me because in recent years it seemed like they were going to move on from them, but they didn't. So I'm like, are they actually going to do it? And they practically announced their departure at the very same time. And if this is it for either driver in Formula One, I don't think they have anything to be ashamed about. Romain Grosjean been around for a while, has had a lot of success. Looks like he might have some opportunities in the FIA World Endurance Championship, potentially Formula E, especially since the news came out that he was testing for Mahindra, and I believe it might have been in a simulator or something. I'm sure Joe will be able to correct me on that, or Jack from Formula E Zone. Yeah, but definitely some options out there for him, and also could be options for Kevin Magnussen as well in sports car racing and potentially IndyCar. In recent years, Kevin Magnussen said, since going to IndyCar races as a child with his dad, Jan Magnussen, who used to race in IndyCar, Kevin's really been interested in racing in IndyCar.
That's right. Taking a look at the top 10 starters for tomorrow's race. And we have in the third place Lewis Hamilton, then Valtteri Bottas, both of Mercedes. First, Max Verstappen, then Charles Leclerc, the one Ferrari in this top 10. 5, Sergio Perez. 6, Alex Albon. 7, Carlos Sainz. 8, Lando Norris. 9, Pierre Gasly. And 10, we have to see Daniel Ricciardo. Lewis Hamilton still has a chance at the grid ranking World Championship, and Valtteri Bottas hopes at the Formula One title are slipping away. Kobe and Joy, how soon will Lewis Hamilton grab up the Formula One World Championship?
I think Lewis Hamilton's definitely gonna wrap up this World Championship soon. I don't really see anybody else being been in contention at all. I think it's already game over, and Lewis Hamilton's going to claim yet another Formula One World Championship. We just have to see what's. I think the biggest thing now, we're going to have to see what happens with his contract situation, since he still hasn't signed an extension with Mercedes. And then I'd be shocked if he didn't return to Formula One, because I still feel like he has a lot that he wants to accomplish in his Formula One career.
I have to agree with you. I feel already the championship is almost coming to the point where it is game over. Like you said, it's just a matter of putting together those good finishes to wrap it up. I mean, he's at a point where he could just consistently get podium finishes, even if it wasn't all wins, to wrap up the Formula One World Championship. What's his contract extension? That's a really good point. I am surprised he hasn't signed anything. I would be shocked as well if he wasn't to return back. I especially think he has a lot more to want to accomplish in Formula One. I think his presence in Formula One, especially using the platform about social justice, climate change, and everything, I think it's really valuable for Formula One. I think it would be greatly missed if he was to decide to not return.
And now we have a quick round of Formula One silly season question about all the stuff happening in the last week. Okay, and we have Kobe, chances of George Russell being back at Williams.
Oh, I think it's very uncertain that George Russell could be back at Williams, especially when the new owners of Williams were asked about the driver line that year, and they were unable to commit to George Russell or Nicholas Latifi. And I think that's definitely something that George Russell has to worry about, especially Mercedes said that there's nothing they can do if Williams decides to replace him. It would be such a shame for George Russell, considering how talented of a driver he is, and he hasn't been able to progress up the grid with, try to get that seat at Mercedes. And I feel like if George Russell is, if he's out at Williams, that could definitely be, it'll just be a major disappointment for him, because I feel like he's certainly capable of running at the front of the grid. Joe, Red Bull, Nico Hulkenberg. If the opportunity comes available for Nico Hulkenberg to replace Alex Albon at Red Bull, do you think Hulkenberg should take this opportunity?
I do think he should take that opportunity. Opportunity to be back in Formula One. Red Bull's a pretty good, solid ride. I know there's that disadvantage. You're going to be the number 2 driver. Max Verstappen's number 1. That car's going to be around Max Verstappen. But I feel Nico Hulkenberg has the talent to bring some good finishes, help essentially Max Verstappen do well and be that perfect number 2 driver. Jessica, Alfa Romeo and Haas are both potential seats for Sergio Perez. Which team is a better fit for him?
The better thing is Haas, because Sergio Perez has the potential and something too much important in the championship or for all the teams, and he have the money to take a seat in the next season of Formula One. So for that, I think his thing will be Haas, because Haas needs all the stuff if once Sergio Perez has. And now Joy Pierre Gasly asks, will AlphaTauri stay another year? Good for him.
I do think AlphaTauri, Pierre Gasly next year will be another good match. Definitely, I know with everything going on with Red Bull, what happened last year, I think that's just going to be the best bet for him. Definitely want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat room, especially Formula E Zone. Hello, glad you're enjoying the show. So definitely, I think for AlphaTauri, that'll be the best bet. Kobe, Mick Schumacher is one of the names from Formula 2 looking at Formula 1. What other upcoming drivers should we look at in the Formula 1 rumor mill to come up?
Oh yeah, definitely. One of the drivers who's rumored to join Haas F1 next year is Nikita Mazepin, who's currently racing in the FIA Formula 2 Championship, and also have to look at the other Ferrari junior drivers alongside Mick Schumacher. Have to look at Callum Ilott, who's having one heck of a season in Formula 2, and also Robert Schwartzman and Japanese driver Yuki Tsunoda. It could be tipped to replace Danny Casillas at AlphaTauri next year. Jessica, people have been more vocal about tracks, rotating onto the Formula 1 schedule so we could see F1 in more places. Do you think Formula 1 should adopt such a schedule where we see tracks every 2 to 3 years?
Now I think the Formula One want to be a special draft for the all the seasons or have this circuit consecutive in all the season of Formula One. I think Portimao will be one of these. Portimao can stay in the calendar for the next years. And we have to say the Formula One is tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern and 6 a.m. Pacific. And now it's time to NASCAR at Texas coverage.
Yes, definitely NASCAR Cup Series at Texas this weekend, and the round of 8 again open with a surprise playoff winner. This time, fifth-ranked Joey Logano secured a spot in the championship 4, and really left everyone minus Kevin Harvick in a must-win situation. Do you think this was a bigger shakeup than Kurt Busch's win at Las Vegas?
I do see it as a bigger shakeup compared to Kurt Busch win in Las Vegas. Of course, right now, the round of 8, we dropped down to half, just 4 going to the final round of the NASCAR playoffs. And when you look at the playoff bubble right now, in fact, you can see with his win how this really shakes everything up. Kevin Harvick, yes, he's still looking good to point his way in. Denny Hamlin, 20 points ahead. I mean, that's only essentially 2 state wins. So it's just really shocking that, his one win, granted he was 5th entering the round of 8. Now with that win, it has really shaken up where I feel a lot of drivers are right now in must situations for the remainder of this round.
Yeah, and although Kevin Harvick is 41 points above the cut line, and I know I said that he's not really in a must-win situation yet, but imagine if, let's say, Kevin Harvick has an engine failure on the very first lap of the race, then he's going to miss out on those potential max, try to get 60 points from the race, and then he's only going to be leaving Texas with 1 point, and then Kevin Harvick might be on the outside looking in, which would be absolutely crazy because Kevin Harvick has had one of the best seasons of his career, and also really crazy saying that Denny Hamlin is vulnerable as well. I think most people think that Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin are going to be one of the top contenders for the championship, as those two drivers. This has been basically back and forth all season. And if Kevin Harvick was not to win, but distance himself from everyone else, he can still, he can obviously secure a spot in championship 4. And Denny Hamlin's only 20 points above the cut line. And that's only 2 stage wins. Brad Keselowski is 8 points above, and Chase Elliott 8 below. Do you anticipate those 3 really going for stage points at Texas? Because it seems like that stage racing is more important than ever.
The stage racing is more important than ever. And especially this year, one of the things we've seen, Kevin Harvick being so dominant, comes into the playoffs, still is going for wins. But if you're back there and you didn't get all those stage points, those playoff points, it just puts you in the bigger hole each round. I mean, Kurt Busch is over 100 points behind. He is in the must-win situation when it comes to trying. There's no way he could really get around Kevin Harvick at all, besides a win. When it comes to especially the way the stages are, this is a long race. I think they could really just go for each stage point, try to win each stage. That third stage, they still have the time to go out there, try to get a win. It's not like some of the other tracks where you have to sacrifice stage points for a winning strategy.
Yeah, and it might be a little easier for those drivers to point their way in if possible, and for 3 other drivers, it's going to be a little more challenging. Alex Bubba is 27 points below, Martin Truex Jr. 31 points out, and Kurt Busch definitely must win at this point, 73 points below. Which one of these 3 drivers could get into the championship 4 without a win? And I can't imagine that it's going to be Kurt Busch.
I don't think it's going to be Kurt Busch at all. I mean, he'll need Denny Hamlin, nobody to score hardly any points to get him. But that's just really a lot to ask for. Unless Kevin Harvick does not win, I don't see how any of them could really get in the points. Because here's the big thing. If Kevin Harvick was to win at Texas, we know we still essentially have 2 spots up for grabs at Martinsville. But if somebody else wins, Brad Keselowski, especially. And Kevin Harvick is going to point his way in unless he has a disastrous race at Texas and Martinsville. That realistically leaves one spot open. And that's just going to be insane. I mean, I would assume Denny Hamlin could easily, be another driver to point his way in case somebody outside the playoffs was to win. But here's the thing. In this scenario, if Kevin Harvick does win, if it was a Keselowski, somebody else in the playoffs, or one of those bottom fours, Denny Hamlin could be in the must-win situation by Martinsville, and it's just really crazy. So for any of those four drivers to advance, especially off points, the best thing they could have is see Kevin Harvick get that win in Texas, nobody else pulls too far ahead, and then try to get a win or point their way in from Martinsville.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be really hard for any of those three drivers to point their way in. But and looking back to last week at Kansas, there was a lot of uproar on social media about the aero package. As Kyle Busch says, the P word, and we definitely saw some exciting moments. Kansas, it was really chilly, and the package really works the best in those conditions, and people were definitely really excited about the racing early on, but in the end they were really upset because then the problems of this 550 horsepower high downforce package finally kicked in. They major issues with it, which is the dirty air is such a problem and it's really hard to pass. Do you think this is a legitimate issue, or do you think there could be some bias because Joey Logano won and Joey Logano is not an overall crowd favorite like a Chase Elliott or a potential playoff underdog like Alex Bowman or Kurt Busch?
Definitely has to play in a little bit of that bias. Of course, everybody loves to see an underdog go out there, get a surprise win. I mean, if this was Matt DiBenedetto holding off Kevin Harvick, I think a lot of people will be talking about the big Matt DiBenedetto getting his first career win, the Wood Brothers 100. This was Joey Logano. I feel Joey Logano, especially how he won the championship a few years ago, where some people were saying he wasn't really one of the big three and he beat the big three. I almost see him as like a spoiler person where he just goes in there. He is in the playoffs. People didn't really anticipate or talk about him being in the Final Four. Well, he's in there. I know there's a lot of polarizing opinions on Joey Logano. I do think there's a bit of that, but I do think maybe now people are starting to talk more about, okay, is this package really that great? We had some of the best ideal conditions. We had some good races, but at the end, we still see the disadvantages of this packages where Kevin Harvick just cannot find a way around.
Actually, in this case, I think it's not really more so biased. I do think that people are legitimately upset over the aero package because you can see some really exciting moments, and some people they've referred to this package as the restart package. You have exciting restarts, and their drivers jockeying for position. And then the first few laps of the run, you see some great racing. Then when it gets spread out, then it becomes much harder to pass. And I think people were very frustrated that Kevin Harvick wasn't able to get by Joey Logano in those closing stages because of the dirty air. And luckily heading into next season, there's not going to be a lot of these races anymore. I think it's like 23 of 36 races are going to be 750 horsepower and low downforce. So we're not going to have to deal with this package a lot. And plus, NASCAR's already given out the rules package for next year, and it's also going to be the last year for the Gen 6 car. So there's honestly really no point in trying to change this package at the time. And for people who don't like this package, you got one more season with it. You don't have a lot of races with it next season, so do your best to just survive next season because this current package is only going to be around one more season. But you also have to look at the next gen era as well, and we don't know what kind of package they're going to get with the next gen car. We just have to hope that whatever problems that they're having with this current package, that it won't transfer over to the next gen era. And there's certainly been a lot of buzz this week from Kyle Larson being reinstated, Eric Jones going to Richard Petty Motorsports, and the announcement of 2311 Racing joining the series, which is Michael Jordan's new team. 23, Michael Jordan's iconic number, and the 11 indicating Denny Hamlin's number. And Bubba Wallace is going to be driving the number 23 next year, and it's widely believed that it's going to be a Toyota with an alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing and TRD. And we also know Chase Briscoe is going to be in the 14 car next year. Still, there's the assumption that Kyle Larson is going to be joining Hendrick Motorsports as well. And we still don't know about Ty Dillon's plans for 2021 and many other moving pieces. Joe, can you recall a year with so many changes and all, for heading into the next season?
For me, I feel like it's very similar to 1994. Actually, in the 1993 season, we saw Terry Labonte went to a new team. Sterling Marlin switched to a new team. Ernie Irvan, of course, switched. 1994, I feel, was pretty big. But this is still, especially considering the circumstances, 93, entering 94, NASCAR was seeing a lot of growth, TV ratings, sponsorship interest, new teams coming, and of course, a lot of single car teams then. Now we have a handful of these super teams, Hendrick Motorsports, Stewart-Haas Racing, Penske. It's harder to find a new ride. We are seeing some more single car teams. 2311 Racing, Daniel Suarez is going to be in a new single car team. So it's really interesting, but I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen this much change entering a new season.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting times heading into the next gen era. It really does seem like that a lot of people are banking on this new business model coming up in this new car. Yeah, you mentioned 2311 Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin starting up a team. Then you got Justin Martin starting up Trackhouse with Daniel Suarez, and also was announced yesterday that BJ McLeod and Matt Tiff have bought a charter for next season. So can we potentially see BJ McLeod Motorsports racing in the Cup Series full time with the charter? And also Colic Racing mentioned the possibility of them going to the Cup Series in 2022. So definitely a lot of potential heading into the future for the NASCAR Cup Series. And looking at things that are happening in the present, Texas Motor Speedway this weekend, of course, the restarts are gonna be key, especially since it's hard to pass at this racetrack, especially since they reconfigured the track in turns 1 and 2. And last time we were at Texas a few months ago, we saw a big crash on the front stretch, and this is going to be a long 500-mile race, and it's really best suited for teams who have the fastest cars and can get that track position. If you were Kurt Busch, way down there, 73 points out right now, what strategy would you use? Like if we have a late race caution and the drivers are deep into the run, would you stay out and try to see if you can steal a win?
Easily try everything you can to steal a win, similar to what he did in Las Vegas. He stayed out longer during green flag pit stops. The yellow flag came off, perfect timing, had most of the field behind him when he made his pit stop, and held off a hard charging Matt Benedetto to get his playoff win to advance into this round. That's what I'll be looking at if I was Kurt Busch crew chief. And not just for the win only, but to try to get those stage points. If you could get 10 points at the end of stage 1, that puts you just a little bit closer in case you don't get a win, but some of your other competitors have bad luck. We saw Martin Truex Jr. and a bunch of cars in a big crash earlier this year. Keep your nose clean. Keep these strategies going, and especially at the end, if there's a chance there's just going to be overtime, if that means staying out on older tires while some of the others are coming in, hey, you have to hold off everybody for just one lap, the restart lap. Because once you get that white flag, if something was to happen, it's game over, and you could easily steal a win at Texas.
Yeah, definitely. And the last time we were at Texas, we saw something similar play out with Austin Dillon. Nobody saw Austin Dillon winning the last time out at Texas Motor Speedway. But Dillon was able to get that track position, stay out, get the clean air, and nobody could pass him.
Yeah, nobody could pass him. It was really hard, so it's going to be really interesting. Now, one of the more interesting seasons going on, MotoGP. We'll turn to Jessica for that.
That's right, because MotoGP season continues, and for the second race weekend in a row, Rossi out. Rossi tested positive for COVID-19 and again is sitting out. More details came out about his trip to France, possibly how he was exposed to the virus. COVID is a wake-up call for MotoGP riders, especially since the season started late due to the pandemic.
Oh, I definitely think it's a wake up call for the entire MotoGP paddock, but not just them. I think it should be a wake up call for everyone in the motorsports community all over the world, and not just the motorsports community. I think all citizens in the world need to definitely pay attention to the current situation. And on our Grid Live, I mean our Grid Tonight program, we were talking about the pandemic and how cases were starting to rise, and this is possibly the big second wave that the scientists have been warning about for months now, and it's it's definitely going to be a challenging winter for us all, and especially a little worried about all of the racing series that are going to be that are still going to be going on for a little while. And then we only have a couple of more weeks left in NASCAR, so we're going to be done. And IndyCar is going to be done this weekend, and also have some other racing series that still are going to be a little while before they finish up. And I just think that with Valentino Rossi tested positive and hearing how he possibly contracted the virus, I do think that people need to really start taking this more seriously, because you certainly don't want to see anybody get sick or even worse.
That's right. Taking a look at the track map for the MotoGP race, we have Motorland Aragon have a 5078 kilometers equivalent of 3.321 miles long. Has 16 corners, and the last week Alex Rins won here in a surprise week. After today's qualifier, do you think Alex has a chance to win today, Joy?
Well, I do think he does have a chance to win, and with the way this season has been going, so do many other drivers have a chance to win this season. I mean, it's just amazing how many different winners we've seen this year, especially since Marc Marquez and his Honda team, they haven't been really doing that well ever since Marc Marquez has gotten hurt. Of course, Marc Marquez still hasn't raced since the opening race weekend. So definitely I think he has a chance to win. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get another first-time winner.
That's right, and we have all the with that. And then today's surprise for sitter Takaki Nakagami to the pole, not a factory represent on that, but we finally have on for the first time in the 2020. Also, we have seen progress from Alex Marquez this year with improving results. And Kobe, is all getting their act together, and can we finally see out the win?
To be honest with you, I really don't see that happening at all. Yeah. It's been great to see Alex Marquez with progressing throughout the season, but I think what they really need is to have Marc Marquez back. And as I mentioned last weekend, if Marc Marquez is healthy and there's still some races left in the season, I do think it's in his best interest to sit out. It's definitely been really rough for Honda this year, but I do think that once Marc Marquez returns, that Honda's going to return to its winning ways.
That's right. Look at the content rider for today. We had a big surprise with Takaki Nakagami in the first place. Then Franco Morbidelli, third, Alex Rins, number 4, Maverick Viñales, number 5, Joan Zarco, 6, Fabio Quartararo, 7, Cal Crutchlow, 8, Miguel Oliveira, 9, Paul Espargaro, in the top 10, Alex Marquez with his Honda. The top three in the points are really close. Mir, the point leader, starting 12th. And we have Quartararo in the 6th and Viñales 4th. Dovizioso 4th and can get the points lead if the top 4 were to not finish and Dovizioso was to win. Guys, Joy and Kobe, after tomorrow's race, there are only 4 races remaining. How stressful it is be racing for you first championship and you still have 4, maybe 5 drivers if Nakagami was to win?
It is very stressful. I know like we were talking about in the IndyCar series, you have 2 drivers. So there's only one other driver you have to pay a lot of attention to. We thought that we could be coming down to the final 4 races and we still have 5 drivers mathematically eligible. That just makes it really challenging because you got to focus on your race. But you might be concerned about where is Fabio racing, where is Andrea, where's everyone. It just makes it a really big challenge, and this just makes it for going for your first championship makes it really stressful for drivers, but for the fans and the viewers, it just makes it a very entertaining conclusion to the championship.
Yeah, definitely. I'm certain that these riders they're going to go out there and just try to bet and try their best and try and just keep going at it, try to get that championship, especially if you're not used to being in this position. You have a lot of people probably thought, oh, it's gonna be the Marc Marquez show, but when Marc Marquez went out, we saw a lot more parity up in the MotoGP standings. And these riders, they have a prime opportunity to go out there and just win a championship.
That's right, because we saw Takaki Nakagami has a great weekend. He also have a new contract with Honda, and this is very important to the Japanese rider. MotoGP tomorrow 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Pacific. Also, we want to thank you for the 100 subscriptions this morning. Thank you so much for being here with us. Follow all our job about Kobe and Joy and from me from Paddock Inside. And we have to thank you, all of you, for being here with us. So, because this is a big day for Green Network, World Motor World, ranking 100 subscribers. So, thank you so much, guys, for this one and for this great weekend for us.
Oh wow, 100 subscribers. When I joined Grid Network back on May 17th, one day before my 21st birthday, I never expected that we get to this day. 100 subscribers. Understand that some people 100 subscribers may not mean a lot to them, but 100 subscribers mean a lot to us because we took this program and we built it over the last several months, and we're gonna keep building and improving moving forward. And really thank everyone out there who's supported us through all of the growing pains and all of that. And there's still gonna be growing pains because you know what? We're all humans. We're not perfect at all. But behind the scenes, we work really hard here at Grit Network to bring you the best motorsports content possible. And it's just incredible reaching 100 subscribers, and also special shout out to our Patreon supporter Colin.
Definitely want to give a shout out to our Patreon subscriber as well. And we encourage everyone, visit our Patreon page, subscribe, help us expand and grow. It's definitely a big thing. And 100 subscribers, it is really exciting to see that. Of course, we're going to continue bringing the best motorsports coverage. And a big special thank you to, of course, Kobe, Jessica. They made this happen as well. Matt Light, of course, putting the Grid World Motorsport League. Follow at Grid_WML. He's been around for a long time. Big thank you for him as well. And to our special folks that have been on Grid programs as well, such as Jack from Formula E Zone. We did Formula E Fest. We really appreciate working with you on that program, that series. It was a lot of fun. Last week we had Adam, one of the biggest Australian supercar experts out there. Big shout out. Thank you for him for being part of this as well. So many people have made this a lot of fun. Being around everyone that's so passionate about motorsports and making it and expanding it to new audience has been a lot of fun.
That's right. Thank you so much. And los invito para que me sigan en Paddock Inside, hablando un poquito en español. Ahí vamos a ver todas las noticias de MotoGP y Fórmula 1. Muchísimas gracias por suscribirse y acompañarnos en cada video que realizamos los fines de semana, los post y las pre-carreras. Así que muchísimas gracias a todos por acompañarnos.
Definitely a big day for the Grid Network, and definitely once again, Kobe, Jessica, Matt, thank you all so much for being part of the Grid Network. It's really meaningful to be working with you guys. We all enjoy doing this, and it just always brings a smile to me as well. Of course, someone's going to have a big smile at the end of the Firestone Grand Prix, but already we've gotten word about a significant crash that had occurred in St. Petersburg involving Oliver Askew. Of course, this is a little bit concerning since Oliver Askew, of course, his first race back after sustaining some concussion-like symptoms and a concussion from a significant crash at the Indianapolis 500 race. Now, the NTT season, it will end after the Firestone Grand Prix. While many are talking about the upcoming season, some big news that got attention this week was the Indy Lights season for 2021. There is no Freedom 100. Many on social media were very critical of this move, not having a Freedom 100 race for the Indy Lights season at Indianapolis. Kobe, does this move make any sense?
Well, with Roger Penske in control, I'm sure there's some method to the madness, but speaking from an outside perspective, I really don't understand the move to get rid of the Freedom 100. This is the crown jewel of the Indy Lights season, and it's certainly one of the most exciting races each year in all of motorsports. I know people who don't watch any Indy Lights racing, but when the Freedom 100 comes on, this is the one race they watch because of all the great racing and the photo finishes. This is the one race on the schedule that people who don't even consider themselves followers of the Indy Lights series that they'll circle this race on their calendar because everyone wants to see the exciting Freedom 100. And the Freedom 100, in my opinion, it defines the Indy Lights series. Yes, we have a championship and all of that, and a scholarship to hand out so these drivers can move up to the next level and go IndyCar racing. But I do feel like if you take away the Freedom 100, especially if this is a permanent move where we're never going to see the Freedom 100 ever again, I feel like that this move is a way of harming the identity of the Indy Lights series.
You bring up a really good point, especially this was the crown jewel of the Indy Lights season. A lot of times, especially for the casual race fan that may just watch NASCAR only to get into the month of May, get into the Indianapolis 500, this was the one Indy Lights race they would watch because it was part of Carb Day, and it became especially famous for the close finishes. There has to be something behind it. I could recall early on when the introduction of this idea, the brand new Freedom 100, some of the more pure traditionalists were saying there should only be one race at Indianapolis in the month of May, and that was the Indy 500. I feel now we're at a point, though, this has become a good tradition along with the Indy 500. For me, I think it's more of a bigger loss than anything to not have it. It caught me by surprise, and hopefully we do see it come back. I would be happy to see it come back, but that's just something beyond our control. Of course, we still have many unanswered questions about the 2021 season, especially when it comes to some of the rides that are still available. It's one of the big ones. Who will be in that 28 Andretti Autosport that Ryan Hunter-Reay currently has? Will we see more cars next year at the Indianapolis? We know McLaren, Ray Hall Letterman, they've been talking about expanding. Sunday, when it comes to the race, this is your last opportunity to essentially audition for a new ride next year, a good ride. Who do you think is going to be some of the drivers that are really going to be pushing to get a good finish and try to show they're worthy of a top ride?
I definitely think if I had to pick one, definitely has to be James Hinchcliffe because James Hinchcliffe, obviously he's trying to look for, try to come back to full-time IndyCar racing next year, and Andretti does have some uncertainties with his driver lineup. Seems like they're trying to get Ryan Hunter back in at number 28. We just have to see what happens there. And also as when Andretti Autosport ends that beach parted ways, it seemed like Hinchcliffe will be destined to return to the grid full time next season. However, silly season, a lot of things can happen, especially looking over in the Formula One world. Looking at Kevin Magnussen, who looks like he's going to be out of Formula One. Several years ago, when Magnussen there were some uncertainties about his Formula One career, he almost signed a deal to race full time in IndyCar with Andretti Autosport. So and also Magnussen, it's been reported that he's talking to several IndyCar teams about potential ride next season. Although Magnussen said it will be really difficult for him to find a seat during this time. It seemed like James Hinchcliffe could be in a good spot to race next season full time with Andretti, but also makes me wonder if if all of the stars align, could Kevin Magnussen be a threat for a seat there?
Kevin Magnussen definitely could be a good potential in the IndyCar series. Of course, that's one of the big things is how many or potential F1 drivers we might see. Today was announced Kuma Sato confirmed with Rahal Letterman Lanigan racing for next season. Also earlier, related to particularly Roger Penske, Penske is leaving the Supercar series at the end. Well, essentially, the season's already over, so they are leaving it. It won't be back in 2021. And of course, there's still rumors that we might see Formula One drivers in IndyCars. There's been rumors about Magnussen, Sergio Perez. I mean, now potentially George Russell. Kobe, do you see one of those drivers or any other potential Formula One drivers in the IndyCar series next year?
I think we'll definitely see at least one active Formula One driver racing an IndyCar next season. For a while, I thought it was going to be Sergio Perez, but it's looking less and less likely that that's going to happen. Perez might have an opportunity to stay in Formula One next season. Especially since the news come out that he might have a shot at getting the seat at Williams. Could be going to Haas. Alfa Romeo looking less likely at this point, or even Red Bull could be an option if they decide to can Alex Albon. Yeah, but I do think that we could see Sergio Perez racing IndyCar at some point in his career. And I think the best bet right now would be Kevin Magnussen. He seems to be a big fan of IndyCar racing, passionate about it. Tried to run with Andretti before McLaren blocked the move several years ago. So maybe things will finally come full circle, and we'll see Magnussen driving for Andretti or another team. And I'm not really sure if we'll see George Russell in IndyCar at this point. He has a lot of talent, and really seems like he has a lot of unfinished business left in Formula One. And it's very unfortunate that this decision seems out of Mercedes' control, because George Russell has been outperforming his teammate Nicholas Latifi, but the difference between George Russell and Nicholas Latifi is that Latifi brings significant backing, and in comparison to George Russell does not. So that could leave George Russell very vulnerable. And if Williams is serious about moving towards the front of the grid, they're going to need funding to develop their cars. And Latifi, with all his backing, Sergio Perez bringing significant backing as well, and then George Russell, not having that amount of money, coming with him, he might be the odd one out, and Russell might have to try to take a reserve role with another Formula One team, or maybe like, hey, if I go over, I'll drive IndyCar this year, in 2021, and then I'm going to try to see what my options are for a Formula One return. But I do think if I had to pick one, I definitely think Kevin Magnussen would race an IndyCar. I think Sergio Perez will be the next one. Then I think George Russell would do everything he can to try to stay on the Formula One grid before considering IndyCar. But I do think that if Williams go with those two funded drivers, it's going to be very hard for George Russell to keep his Formula One drive, which would be an absolute shame.
I do see Kevin Magnussen being potential in IndyCar. I know with everything going on, especially as you point out with Williams, funding is a big thing, and definitely drivers that bring that sponsorship funding is something where the way Formula One is going, that's just a big part of the business there. So it'll be really a shame to see Russell out, but if George Russell was to be in IndyCar, I think that'd be really exciting for everybody. Now, of course, It's time for one of our more exciting part, pick a winner.
Yeah, definitely excited for a pick a winner. We have F1, NASCAR, MotoGP, and IndyCar, and we're gonna start off with Formula One. Joe, who you think's gonna win?
For Formula One, I think it's gonna be Lewis Hamilton. I know a lot of people just assume, oh, that's an easy pick. Lewis Hamilton, though, I mean, he really is almost in a league of his own. Unless something goes wrong, a penalty, mechanical failure, I think Lewis Hamilton has this essentially won. Jessica, when it comes to Formula One, who do you see potentially winning this race?
With this Grand Prix, I have to say Lewis Hamilton, he has all the potential, has all to be the winner in the Portimao. So I think Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, yes, sir. They going with Lewis Hamilton as well. Don't really see anyone else being a major contender. And now NASCAR at Texas, since Joe went first last time, I'll go first. I think it's going to be back-to-back victories for Team Penske, but it won't be Joey Logano. It's going to be Ryan Blaney in the number 12 Ford Mustang.
I think it's going to be Denny Hamlin. I think he's going to respond back and get the win and secure himself in the Final Four.
And next we're gonna go to MotoGP. Jessica, who you think's gonna win?
Again, it's really difficult with the Takaki Nakagami pole position, but he has behind him like Franco Morbidelli and Maverick Viñales. I will say Franco Morbidelli could win this Grand Prix.
This is a really tricky. I mean, so many different winners. I'm gonna go with Suzuki. I'm gonna go with Rins getting the win. I mean, it's just so tricky. It's like, man, almost anybody could win there.
And for me, I think I'm gonna go with Maverick Viñales. And last but not least, the Firestone Grand Prix on the streets of St. Pete. IndyCar pick a winner, and I'm gonna go first. And I don't know how I'm gonna go about this. I've been thinking about this. I wanted to go with Will Power, but I'm actually gonna go with the upset, saying that Scott McLaughlin is gonna pull off the upset and win on debut at St. Pete.
That will be huge if Scott McLaughlin can go out there, win his debut. I know that'll definitely score him a lot of points in the Grid World Motorsport League. I think it's gonna be essentially a Penske driver. I think it's going to be somebody that's sort of been out of the radar, is out of the championship contention. I think Simon Pagenaud is going to go out there and get the win at the St. Petersburg Firestone Grand Prix. And definitely we thank everybody for watching Grid Live pre-race edition. On behalf of everyone here, we just really want to thank you, everybody. 100 subscribers, that is such a big deal. And then, of course, our Patreon right now, calling our Patreon subscriber. Be sure to click on the link below. We got big plans. I mean, we right now have media credentials for essentially 4 Premier Series. We want to expand that, and we want to be at the track covering all the racing for you, the viewers, and our supporters. Thank you. For Kobe Lambeth at the Podium Finish and Jessica at Paddock Insight, I'm Joe San Diego. Have a wonderful day and enjoy all the races.